example of price, nous avons déjà dit ça déjà, comme nous avons annoncé. Pendant toute semaine dans la net, nous gagnons plusieurs parties à prendre, mais après-midi là, c'est parti PNP qui est là ensemble avec nous.
Parce que nous avons expliqué à ouvrir, nous avons expliqué à I really apologize for the late reading. Yeah.
I don't know with you right now. I speak and then they call it with back. I call it with back. So, okay, let me answer something. What happened?
The second, the economy, how the country will organize
Come on, Jehovah's here.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Bonsoir, bonsoir tout le monde sur Radio Creole, Example of Christ Radio. Nous comptons nous là, après-midi, c'est serviteur Pasteur Jacques Fano qui est présent avec une équipe solide, équipe PNP là, qui pourra parler nous de plan yo gagné pour Turks and quelque chose là, en gros, et communauté haïtienne là. Pourquoi pas? Nous avons anciens yo, nous tous habitants avec eux qui là ensemble avec nous après-midi. Nous allons introduire sans perdre du temps. Nous comptons. Et les amis, et les familles, d'y brancher sur page radio sur Facebook, page Jacques Fano sur Facebook, Radio VHTC, Radio Creole. Nous là, nous pourrons parler, et un petit cause là avec PNP. Pour qui raison, ou même on a deux votre parole là, vendredi si tu veux, vous pourrez expliquer nous exactement qui plan, qui projet yo. Without wasting time, as I just greet everyone, all our listeners, I will now introduce our guest. We have three members of PNP who are here with us at, right here in the radio stations. Let me first of all start on my right. We have, well, I know the name, but I'm not saying the name. I'll let you introduce yourself one after the other, and so that our listeners would know who is here with us this afternoon.
Good. Thank you. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Mike Missick, the former premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands and a member of the PNP.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Floyd Hall. I'm the former Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance of the PNP, and it's a pleasure to be here with my Haitian brethren this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Hall. I was the former Minister of the Immigration and Communications in the Michael Missick administration. Good afternoon, Turks and Caicos. Good afternoon to the Haitian community.
Good afternoon to you all. Mesdames et messieurs, nous attendons qui est-ce qui est ensemble avec nous. Nous avons ancien primaire Michael Missick, un pile haïtien, mais un pile qui est avec nous. Nous avons Jeffrey Hall, is that correct? Ancien ministre immigration. Et the next one is Floyd Hall. C'est Mounsa yo qui est avec nous, ancien vice-primaire et PNP. Mounsa nous songe qui fait pourtant pile économie, en pile l'argent pour payer en pile job. C'est eux même qui est avec nous après-midi, en pile parler quoi le fait. Qui plan yo pour pays dans 4 ans cap venir là. Now, we are very happy to have you here with us this afternoon. Very, very happy. People have been waiting for this show, and they want to hear and know what is PNP plan. What is the plan for the next 4 years as PNP want to get back on power? And you are former leaders, former ministers, and you know it all. You know it all. You are the best person to come and answer some questions and also share with the community. So I guess we will start with Michael Missick. I know you are, and in Creole, we call that chouchou, which means when they say you are the chouchou of the Haitian community, it's like you are the favorite of the Haitian community. They love you very much. I mean, everybody in the Haitian community always talking about you, and they still do. And we're very happy and very honored to have you with us here this afternoon. So going forward, without wasting time, we're very happy for, very sorry for starting late. But as you know, we are here and we'll try to make good use of the time.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead. Tell us a little bit. Introduce the plan a little bit with us. We have 5 things to discuss this afternoon, starting with what is going on right now. The pandemic, COVID-19 is destroying life, destroying the world. So what is PNP plan going forward?
Well, thank you very much again, and I'm happy to be I'm happy for the title of Shushu.
Yeah.
Because you know, I've always had a very good relationship with the Haitian community, and we would like to during the next PNP administration to be able to expand on that. So in relation to the PNP, I know that the leader has addressed the issue of the COVID many times, but you're absolutely right. One of the most important things that we have to tackle coming into government would be to get the COVID situation under control. I don't know, because you're,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll give a quick summary after.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so the first thing is that we have to be able to touch lives. There's so many people that has been affected economically, whether it's through jobs. We believe that the PDM government has mishandled the COVID situation. There's so many people that are in need, genuine need, in terms of that can't pay their rent, can't pay electricity, can't pay water, and the stimulus have not one was not enough, and 2 did not reach enough people. I know that one of the things that the PNP government intends to do is to ensure that there's a stimulus between $1,500 and $2,000 per month, if need be, for a defined period of time, to ensure that people are able to maintain themselves during this challenging times.
Well, if I may, I think that would be too long to remember. I thought it was going to be short. Nous entendons ancien primeur Michael Missick a parlé là dans non parti LIA qui prend l'élection pour les TV. Il est content de ce que Haïtien reconnaît comme chouchou et Haïtien vraiment remel, il est content, il est comme ça, il apprend ça, il apprécie ça. Et premier problème, nous connaissons que factualité là, c'est pandémie. COVID-19 qui a fait actualité et il y a un plan pour combattre COVID-19 à la minute que vous prenez pouvoir, c'est ça qu'elle fait connaître. Et encore tout, il y a un plan pour aider le peuple là, pour bailler l'argent encore. You mentioned something about stimulus. Did you say how much? I didn't get that.
Yes, between $1,500 and $2,000 per month.
Okay.
And in stimulus that the party has committed to ensuring all citizens are able to get to be able to maintain themselves through this pandemic. As I said, the PDM government have not done enough. They've mishandled the pandemic, and while the PNP believes that there needs to be measures in place to protect the vulnerable, especially the persons who have underlying conditions and the elderly. We don't believe shutting the economy is the answer, but also we believe that there are people who genuinely need assistance, and the government has to be willing and able to provide that assistance during this challenging time. In fact, what's the use of government if when you need them, they're not there for you? And so that's why it's so important in this upcoming election to vote for PNP straight down the line.
Nous entendons que l'ancien premier a fait connaître que il y a un projet, PNP a un projet pour bailler entre $1,500 à $2,000 par mois pendant l'épidémie jusqu'à ce que l'épidémie a fini. Si que prend pouvoir là, et ça fait connaître pour aider le peuple pendant l'épidémie parce que là pas bon. Je dis qui importance gouvernement bien si le gouvernement va aider les gens lorsque on a un problème. Il m'a dit tout pour le peuple à voter PNP jusqu'au bout pour être capable prendre pouvoir pour aider avec le problème d'épidémie.
Yes.
You want to say anything about the pandemic?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, as Michael just indicated, the PDM has completely mismanaged this pandemic. And as you can see, they seem to think that the only solution to this problem is implementing a curfew and then walking away from the lives of people that have been affected by this pandemic. We already know what their solution is. And as I indicated, that solution is pretty much putting the country on curfew and then leaving the vulnerable to fend for themselves. I cannot speak for the individuals, ministers, but I know what our party philosophy is. And our party's philosophy is that we are a compassionate people. We are a compassionate party. We have demonstrated that over the years. We have always stepped up to the plate when there is an issue of any sort of disaster that affected our country. We always identify with the people in the community, and we are there to be a shoulder to cry on, but not only a shoulder to cry on, we always come with solutions and with assistance. This government has demonstrated that they don't care about any assistance. And so we already know what we have. There is a very renowned investor in this country that called this government incompetent and heartless. And then at the end of the day, they went and gave that developer or that investor $85 million. We, the people in the Turks and Caicos Islands, believe that this government is completely incompetent and heartless because they will shut this economy down. They will leave you to fend for yourselves. Your electricity is off. You can't buy gas. You can't buy food. And then at the end of the day, they're telling you that you live the best way you can and they're asking you for your vote. What are you giving them your vote for? Another 4 years of punishment? We in the PNP, we are offering solutions. Michael Missick, Jeffrey Hall, myself, Gelmer Williams, McAllister Henschel. We have been there for the community of the Turks and Caicos Islands. We have been there for the Haitian community. We identify with the pain that our people are going through right now. We will make representation to our government if they get elected to make sure that they do not forget the people who got them there and make sure that they address the critical poverty issues that our people are now confronted with in this country.
Mesdames et messieurs, nous entendez ancien ministre, M. Floyd, qui sont expliqué nous que parti bien sont parti qui ont compassion, sont parti qui comprennent pour miser peuple, ils étaient là déjà, et il fait qu'on ait lui-même, ancien premier Mike Missick, ancien ministre de l'immigration Jeffrey Hall, ancien premier Gelmer Williams, ils étaient là déjà, ils étaient toujours aidé la communauté haïtienne, ils étaient toujours aidé la communauté haïtienne. Et ils ont une compassion, ils n'ont pas bien la couvre-feu, et puis ils n'ont pas aider le peuple là, ils n'ont pas fermé l'économie, ils ont ouvert l'économie pour business fait dans le pays. Et fait qu'on est que si nous partis ça là en l'autre 4 ans encore, misère a encore nous plus, parce qu'ils ont même là pour aider et ils ont aidé. Bon, pile cause a dit. I don't know if anything else, if you want to say anything else based on the pandemic, okay, all right. Well, you already said a lot, pretty much cover everything, but there's still a few questions because elections is what? The 4 days? At Friday?
Friday.
Friday, yeah, for 3 days. And if your party wins the elections, which means your party will be in power by probably 2 days or so.
Saturday.
Saturday, well, the next day. The next day.
Yeah.
Well, we already in a curfew.
Yes.
I mean, which just changed last night to 9 p.m., but still a curfew. A lot of people still can't go to work. I know one of my friends who can't go to work because of that, still can't go to work.
Well,
So what do you think PNP will do to help with? I mean, we had a week of curfew from 6 to 6, 12 hours. A lot of people lost,
that made no sense.
So a lot of people lost like a week of income.
Yeah.
So going forward after Friday, if PNP win, what would be the first thing going forward helping people?
Well, what I can say is that the curfew that just came from until 6 p.m. made no sense. Even the curfew at 9 p.m., in my view, makes no sense. Because what it does is it presupposes that the virus only travels at night. The virus travels day and night. And then you have this is a tourism destination. And so for businesses who have to close at 8 makes no sense because it doesn't give the guests enough time to eat. It doesn't give the employees enough time, enough work hours, so people are being affected. And so I believe that certain measures have to be put in place, a stronger protocol to ensure safety, and then allow the economy to be open. What I can say is that the PNP is not obliged by the curfew or the decision that was made yesterday or today. As set, elections on Friday. I believe that the PNP will win. And Saturday morning, Washington Missick will be the premier. And then by Monday or so, he will assemble his cabinet. And the new government, with the new cabinet, will make their own decision in relation to whether there's a curfew or not, and how the economy will be open and so forth. So what I can say to people is that although the Minister of Health says that the curfew will be in place until the 3rd of March, the PNP is not obligated to keep that. And I doubt very much that we will keep that. We will put our own measures in place that will make it easier for the workers while protecting the vulnerable and persons' safety and life.
Nous entendons poser question sur question de couvre-feu qui blesse un peu le monde parce que quand le monde a fait une semaine de travail et sans oublier malgré qu'on continue à 9h, on connaît quelques amis qui toujours pas qu'à travail. Ancien premier soir expliqué que il pensait que parti par là lorsque prend pouvoir vendredi si on gagne pouvoir vendredi samedi on prend pouvoir lundi il y a des cabinets ministre en position même couvre-feu ça n'entendez mettre pour 3 mois ça même il a changé il y a venu avec l'autre système parce que quoi système couvre-feu ça a blessé l'économie. Donc nous tendez bagaille situation tête chargée. Now what about the economy because the economy is kind of like connect with the pandemic.
One second. Just very brief. On the topic of the COVID-19, it is important that the persons in the community under the sound of our voice, that they go and get vaccinated because that will help at the end of the day in terms of bringing the whole situation under control. Okay. So if you can encourage them to go and get their vaccinations when they come in on the 22nd of February, that would be a good thing.
All right. Donc, ministre Jeffrey, ancien ministre Floyd, fait connaître que l'important pour nous prendre vaccin tout. Parce que si nous prenons vaccin, on va gérer l'épidémie plus bien et qu'on va aider l'économie avant que nous allions dans l'économie. Well, I was vaccinated. I received the first shot. I'm waiting for the second dose. You have to? Okay, that's great. So I'm not afraid of you guys. You'll probably be afraid of me. Well, as we were saying, I just translated that one is very important to encourage people to take the vaccine to be protected. Now, the pandemics kind of like connect with the economy, as we know. the pandemic kind of like hurt the economy very bad. Now, even before the pandemic, we're gonna get to the situation right now because a lot of people are not working. And even before the pandemic, one thing I realized is the economic was like kind of like, I would say, should I say fake? You know, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, yes, everything was going on and there was no pandemic, there was no COVID, and everything was going smoothly. However, it was still hard on some people because rent went sky high and some people still couldn't make enough money to pay rent. You know, I mean, I can tell you a lot of people raised up their rent price January 1st of 2020. They didn't even know that the pandemic was coming, and still some of them don't want to put it down. I mean, I know the economy, it's the private sector, the government has no authority over them, but there should be something that the government can do to help with these things. Electricity went higher than before the pandemic, during the pandemic. What is PNP plan to help with some of these things and also to create more jobs?
Okay, I'm mindful that Jeffrey hasn't spoken yet, but I don't think the finances happen to be Jeffrey's strong suit. I think he's waiting for the immigration topics and other social topics to deal with. But as it relates to COVID-19 and the economy, you're absolutely spot on. Prior to COVID coming into being, Turks and Caicos Islanders, indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders, including the Haitian community, and I would venture to say people from the Caribbean living here in the Turks and Caicos Islands have become increasingly marginalized. And that you had these wealthy investors coming in, property values have gone through the roof, and the Ritz-Carlton started its construction, but contrary to what we expected in the construction industry, Turks and Caicos Islanders and the Haitian community have been marginalized on those projects. People have complained that they can't get work on the site, and those who do get work are only able to work for a certain number of days. They can't work on the weekends when they can make double time or what have you. They would rather pay that time to the expatriate workers that they brought in, and that doesn't help for our economy. So our people got a double knock in the sense that prices increase with the accommodations because you have more people who come in to live, and then at the end of the day, their wages didn't increase. And so this leads me right into a situation that many people have talked about with respect to the minimum wage. And Michael Missick has always mentioned, we have always had those discussions, and he's indicated that why can't we have a minimum wage that is categorized in the country? And therefore, so you can have minimum wage for domestic workers, like those persons who deal with babysitting. And then you can have a minimum wage category for other persons who are less skilled. And then another minimum wage category for skilled people. And I don't think you would need a minimum wage category for professional people because I think that they will be able to command their own prices. But those who are not professionals, I think that this country seriously needs to look at categorizing a minimum wage provision for them. And then bringing that very last minimum wage, like for domestic workers, I would say bring it up to about $8 to $10 per hour. And then you would have other categories that will be higher than that. And in addition to that, price control was never something that I was fond of because, and I wouldn't go into the philosophy behind it, but there are some areas in this society that I think the government really needs to look at in terms of having price control. And so that's an area that I think that we can talk to the Premier and his ministers once we get elected.
Nous allons nous poser des questions sur l'économie, problème loyer appartement qui est très cher, bill courant qui a monté tête nègre, la vie chère. moun qui a perdu travail depuis avant l'épidémie pour arriver dans l'épidémie pour arriver qu'on y a là qui plan yo. Donc il faut qu'on ait que ça nous attend là. Et ouais ça fait qu'il vient cher comme ça dans le pays. C'est à cause que qu'on paquet il y a un paquet grand condominium paquet gros caille et pour l'autre grand étranger grand investisseur ils viennent investir combien de millions pendant ce temps il a fait gros cob et puis ça fait la vie vient cher dans le pays mais petit malheureux a souffrir. Mais encore il fait qu'on ait que ancien premier Mike Missick toujours par la veille de salaire minimum. Il pensait que tu as fait salaire minimum dans la catégorie. Ça veut dire, au lieu de $6.25 pour tout le monde, mais ça dépend de qui secteur. Par exemple, si on a son babysitter ou bien domestic worker, ou bien si on a un hôtel, donc ça veut dire que salaire minimum doit être différentes catégories pour aider avec situation salaire minimum. Donc nous pensons que ça c'est une bonne idée. On va connecter l'autre question avec les gens qui babysitter qui ont touché salaire minimum pendant ce temps, les gens qui travaillent avec eux, les gens qui ont un job là. Tout ces salaires minimum l'a touché. Your point is a very important point. Which I'm going to ask another question, which kind of like connect with immigration, but not yet into the immigration subject. When you mention a babysitter, all right, I asked that question to the current premier Charlene a couple of years ago in a radio show. The question was, as I mentioned earlier, it's like we have a fake economy, and I don't know if the government official looking at it and see it as I see it. Now, in the Haitian community, most of the babysitters are Haitian nationals, and there may be a few Dominicans, but most are Haitian nationals. And now you have a young Toxalander who has a baby and who's working somewhere in the hotel industry or some other, probably in retail stores or somewhere, and who's making minimum wage. And that Toxalander needs a babysitter. Somehow would have to have a babysitter. And guess what? The babysitter is supposed to get a minimum wage too. So how that Toxalander will be able to pay a babysitter minimum wage and she's getting minimum wage as well? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So what we end up getting is the babysitter will just take anything, maybe $100 a month, $100 every 2 weeks, just something, not something according to the law. Right. Because the boss cannot pay the money. And at the same time, the boss really needs a babysitter and really need a work permit for that babysitter because, you don't want to end up the babysitter get picked up and no one to watch over the baby. So somehow, the babysitter end up getting just something, probably half of minimum wage or maybe a quarter of minimum wage. And then that babysitter, because of how expensive things are, that babysitter cannot pay rent. And you know what happened? That babysitter end up living in a shack. That is another problem again. Wherever it can find some bush or something, just screw something and just stay there to survive. And then next day go into the babysitting again because that person can't pay rent. That person can't pay electricity. That person, I'm like, what government supposed to do about these things? Can you find ways to help?
What did the premier say about that?
I don't really want to get into that. Well, it's best if you tell me what you're planning to do.
I know what our plan is, and that's the reason why I spoke about the categorization of the minimum wage. And
well, she didn't mention that for sure.
Yeah, because she doesn't care. She really doesn't. And the situation is this, right? And I would let the former premier get into this in a minute. The situation is really this. A proper analysis has to be done in conjunction with taking stock of the housing that people have, as well as the categories of work that they do have. And as you mentioned, if you have the same minimum wage throughout the country, then it doesn't solve any good. And that's the reason why persons who work in the hospitality industry probably has to be at a higher category than someone who's the babysitter, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
perhaps the premier would.
Because if everybody's making the same minimum wage, then it doesn't make any sense. But to build on what Floyd has said, under the PDM, this economy has gotten worse and worse, even before COVID. And even in the middle of COVID, they've allowed, and and it's important to remind people they've agreed an increase in electricity for photos. The cost of living in this country is simply too high. And the root of the cost of living is the cost of utilities, whether it's water and power, is the two most essential things. There's too many people who don't have water and power today because the water and power is off. And simply because they cannot afford it. And so in new PNP administration, we'll have to look at the high cost of living. Also, under Jeffrey Hall, under the last PNP administration, we've done a number of affordable housing, whether it's the first phase or second phase. In new PNP administration, I know has plans to improve the housing for people generally, where there are people who've squat on land or who've built. The PNP intend to regularize those situations so people can be able to get free will title, where there should be no person in this country who wants water or who wants electricity can't be able to get it because the photos are saying, well, your document is not straight, right? Or for whatever reason. These things could be fixed by a stroke of a pen. Right? The government can say to photos that, look, that's not photos' problem. That's a government problem. But people, everyone who's applying for land, for water or for power should be able to get it. And so there's so much things like that that needs to be regularized, that the PDM government has simply have no interest in people, right? Especially Haitian people. They hate Haitians. Go ahead.
Well,
just like I said.
C'est-à-dire, c'est un dit que le gouvernement PDM, il n'a pas voulu les Haïtiens, il voulait me traduire, il n'a pas voulu les Haïtiens. Mais le fait qu'on est que, problème, question que je pose là, c'est question de, moun n'a qu'à faire, qu'à vêtir bébé, moun n'a qu'à vêtir bébé à côté que, moun n'a la vêtir bébé ou liya, gépia si c'est vrai, mais il pas toucher ses copes, il pas qu'à payer moun n'a selon la loi, moun n'a même si copes il touche, il pas qu'à payer, l'oblige à rester notre petit caille plat, donc un petit caille légal, parce que pas payer bien. Or moun n'a besoin moun n'a tout, donc ça c'est un problème pour l'économie, qui est capable de résoudre ça. Donc il faut qu'on ait que, pour faire plusieurs catégories de salaire minimum, ça peut aider moun nak prend moun pour babysitter capable faire assez comme pour l'aider babysitter et non plus tout il fait qu'on que yo voulait travailler pour capable diminuer les prix courant dans le pays lorsque il était parlé de compagnie qui monter bill courant gouvernement dit comme ça que ça c'est pas problème compagnie Fortis, c'est problème gouvernement. Dame Charline te dit lorsque je posé une question ça dans l'émission que tu as avec donc moi pas parler dire parce que quand même je veux dire c'est pour eux, c'est eux même pour qui parler parce que demain Steven parce que m'a gagné madame non. Donc c'est comme ça. So yeah, you want to add something? Yeah, go ahead.
Just before you leave that subject, I just want to go back to the babysitter
the situation. Yeah.
And if you look at the contract that this PNP government has made with the people at the drugs and paper science, they focus heavily on the young people, especially single parent, right? And the government, and in this contract, they set up to its citizens and PRC holders, persons who are working in the hospitality industry who are single parent, right? They also need to have babysitters.
Yes.
And because of their wages, they are unable to pay. So the government, in its contract, told these people in this industry that they would assist them. They would provide assistance to these category people. Generally, PNP always securing government. So what we need to do is focus on the contract that we made with you and focus with PNP if you want to value your lives and the lives of the children.
Attendez, monsieur, ancien ministre immigration là, monsieur Jeffrey, il faut connaître que pour question de problème babysitter, dans le contrat, dans le PNP bail avec le peuple là, moi j'ai des femmes là, dans le contrat ça, il faut connaître que vous pas aider le peuple là. Vous allez aider le peuple là, le problème mon yo pour payer babysitter, aider mon yo capable de gérer dossier problème babysitter et vous fait connaître qu'il y a 15 contrat avec le peuple là depuis que je pour voir vendredi cap venir là. Very interesting answers. Well, I'm not there to say whether or not that's the right answer, but that's very interesting answer, and some very good, especially the part about the categories in terms of the minimum wage. Very, very interesting. I hope that could come to reality sometime in the near future. Now, the economy, jobs. A lot of people are losing their jobs, and people need jobs. What is the plan for PNP to create more jobs? I know you probably would say after the pandemic, but people still need to work, people still need to survive. So what is the plan going forward next couple of weeks if PNP get in power to create jobs?
Well, I mean, as Jeff was saying, the PNP manifesto, the contract with the Turks and Caicos people, outline some plans, including e-commerce, also to be able to attract further investment in the tourism sector, also in relation to education and educational issues. But not only does the PNP intend to attract more jobs, but we intend to attract better, higher paying jobs by trying to diversify the economy by putting more emphasis on financial services, as I said, e-commerce. We have E.J. Sanders, who is a brilliant young man who has a lot of initiative and experience when it comes to e-government and e-commerce that I believe will help tremendously. Also, like the former finance minister
share a little bit more.
Share more light on.
Yeah, oui, ancien premier a expliqué dans la question de job, je pose la question, est-ce que qui projet pour créer travail dans le pays? C'est ça mon besoin en pile travail. Donc ancien premier a fait connaître que il y a un projet pour créer un pile travail parce que PNP est toujours bon dans ça, c'est ça le fait qu'on est. Mais ancien ministre finance M. Floyd, il pourra donner plus de détails des stratégies pour utiliser pour capable créer plus de travail dans le mois qui venir si nous allons pouvoir vendre les distribuer.
Yes, thank you. What I can say about the job situation, fortunately for the Turks and Caicos Islands, we are a country that is highly sought after still, in spite of the pandemic. We have managed to create a very valuable tourism product that is attractive throughout the world, and people want to come here. Our major problem going forward is going to be how best we get the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands, including our Haitian community, our brothers. This country has become too litigious. And when I say that, I mean it's throughout the government. The government is involved with a lawsuit with just about everybody. They had a legal problem with beaches. They got legal problems with other developers. They got legal problems with Turks and Caicos Islanders. And they're spending a truckload of money in those areas. The PDM government freely spends on those things because you know why? They like the chaos. They like the situation as it is because as long as government is going after certain Turks and Caicos Islanders who they believe happen to be of the Progressive National Party, they are happy with that because they think that it secures them an opportunity at the polls at the next election. But what they fail to realize is that those hundreds of millions of dollars that's being spent from the government to some expatriate who isn't spending the money back here in the Turks and Caicos Islands is depriving the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands with the quality of life that they should have. And that includes the Haitian community. And whenever I speak about the Turks and Caicos Islands and this Turks and Caicos Islanders in this aspect, I'm speaking about every single voter on that voters list, irrespective of where you came from. Whether you be from the Bahamas, whether you be from Jamaica, whether you be from the United States of America, whether you be from Haiti or the Dominican Republic, you are a Turks and Caicos Islander once you get on that voters list. And I don't think that this PDM government has been the best stewards of our finances as it relates to getting the best value of the dollar being spent. And so if the people, the voters of this country, want to see more money being infused in this economy to benefit them, improving the quality of life for them, whether it be in security, whether it be in education, whether it be in better housing, whether it be creating job opportunities, they need to get rid of Charlene Cartwright and this PDM administration because they don't care about them. And we will come out of this pandemic and nothing would have changed. But with the PNP, we have an opportunity for change and for growth and for job opportunities.
Nous entendons ancien ministre Finance là, Monsieur Floyd, qui explique nous Toxicos Island toujours il y a un pile monde en tant que destination touristique qui veut venir là. Il dit problème qui gagne, il y a un pile grand investisseur. Mais le gouvernement il y a toujours un problème avec les investisseurs. Qui j'en parle avec les jobs toujours créer problème. Il y a un problème légal avec l'habitation, un problème légal avec l'autre compagnie. Et le fait que le gouvernement actuel là remet ça. Il remet dépenser combien de millions d'avocats dans la justice contre les compagnies, contre le monde, n'importe qui bagaille c'est l'État. Et comme ça, on est capable d'investir dans la population, dans le monde, au lieu de bailler grand investisseur, c'est ça le problème. C'est ça que vous faites pour vivre, c'est marcher les gens dans l'État, créer problème, pendant ce temps, ça a encouragé, découragé les investisseurs. Donc d'après lui-même, il pense que l'opportunité ça va là pour tout Toxaland. Depuis c'est le monde qui dans la liste qui a voté, qui a une pièce dans le pays, il pense que qui était sur Haïti, Jamaïque, République Dominicaine, ici, là, Bahamas, n'importe côté, où il parler pour nous toutes, afin que tout le monde soit capable de jouer une opportunité. Mais il faut qu'on ait que tout un gouvernement ça là, l'a toujours entré dans le problème d'IEL avec vos compagnies, avec mon pays, et laisser ça va faire, on va diminuer l'opportunité de travail parce qu'un investisseur a déjà pas investi. Donc c'est ça que M. Floyd lui-même lui fait connaître. Well, very well said. To move further down before we open the floor, we want to touch a little bit about education. Now, a lot of time people think the Haitian community only concerned about education and immigration. Well, which is not the case. In the Haitian community, people talk about everything. Yesterday, I was in a barbershop community. Going forward, what is the plan going forward? Because we still have a lot of problems when it comes to education, especially connect with the pandemic, where people would like to have government, get into government school, but they cannot get access to government school. And they have to pay private, and they can afford pay private with a high cost of accommodation or rent. And you know how life is so expensive right now. It's difficult for a lot of people. I know a few Tox Islanders, my friends, their children in private school, and they can't even afford to pay. So what is the plan going forward? What do you think PNP should do going forward if they get power by next week in terms of education, help those people who cannot afford to pay private school, want to get into government school? What is the plan?
Well, yes, I've never been the Minister of Education, but as Minister of Finance, I always had to deal with the financing of that particular budget. But the issue concerning education and the cost is a real concern for every single Turks and Caicos Islander, irrespective of where you come from, especially during this pandemic time. And I think it is incumbent on any new government to look seriously at that issue and come up with a package of subsidies as it relates to the private schools, to try and subsidize them so that they can facilitate continuing with the students that are enrolled there, so that it doesn't overload the public schools. And where the public schools have been maximized, right? We certainly have to make sure that we have adequate teachers on board, and we have to do a good job of recruiting. But it will be a serious problem for the public schools if all of a sudden you have a mass exodus from the public schools, private schools, going into the public schools. So, and it's incumbent on government by mandate from the United Nations to make sure that every single child in the country has a secondary education. Our government has always been mindful of that. We will always honor that. And we have demonstrated that in the past, that regardless of what decisions were made previously by an unconscionable government, that we will do the right thing to humanity and making sure that every person who is of school age living in our country gets a secondary education.
Nous entendons que l'ancien ministre a parlé que même là, il n'a pas fait partie de l'éducation, mais il a toujours préparé le budget pour l'éducation. C'est un plus gros problème qui gagne pour joindre assez de place pour les élèves. Donc, il parlait que eux-mêmes nous connaissons que nous faisons effort pour monter à l'école. Et eux-mêmes, ils ont pris le travail côté que pour faire effort pour tout le monde qui vit dans le territoire, prendre éducation primaire et secondaire, arriver dans l'école secondaire. Donc après, mon grand monde a des têtes, mais yo voulez travailler pour tout petit monde vivant qui dans le pays a accès à l'éducation. Donc là, un problème l'école d'État avec l'école secondaire, il va voulu craser l'école privée pour tout petit monde dans l'État. Mais tout faut venir avec une stratégie pour que si monde dans le privé ait accès, si monde dans l'État tout, li gain accès pour que tout petit monde net aller l'école. I don't know if you want
I'd like to add to that. Before we move on, it's important to remind people, especially Haitian brothers and sisters, as to scholarships from the PNP, who we open our hearts and our doors to. And even when I drive around in some cases in 5 Keys, and I see that at some Haitian homes they're wearing PDM shirt and PDM stickers, it brings tears to my eyes, because it is as if this was not 100 years ago. This is not 50 years ago. This is 10, 15 years ago. And so the sacrifice that their parents have made and we have made, as if they forgot. These are the same people who, if it was given a chance, Haitian kids, they took people at school and sent them to Haiti. Some kids who have never been to Haiti. And so it's important. The reason why, one of the reasons why I like Israel and the Jews, because they never forget the Holocaust. And I don't want to equate that to it. But it was a type of apartheid. And so I'm saying to my Haitian brothers and sisters and the parents of those kids, do not forget, do not let these people come and fool you. These are the same people that they have no love for you. Right? It's the PNP party who believe in equal rights. Right? We believe that as long as you're a citizen, that there should be no discrimination between citizens. Right? That the same way how my kids have a right to school, to health care, and so forth, you have the same. And so I'm appealing to the memories of people, not to support, not a Haitian should support the PDM, not one. Right? Do not let Sean as a PDM. It's the same PDM. And so is Doug Pinell, and so is Charlene Cartwright. Charlene Cartwright only come around in the Haitian community when it's time for elections. And so we can come here and talk all kind of nice flowery speech, but we have to get to what is important. What is important, and the reason why we're here is because the elections is on Friday. And elections have consequences. Your vote, right? So, they can drive you around and give you a feel-good feeling. Then after Friday, what? What happens after that? You're not going to see them again for 4 years. And your interest goes on the back burner again.
Yeah, let me translate that. Very powerful statement. Nous entendons l'ancien primaire Mike Missick qui s'est parlé avec émotion, côté que lui a fait tout haïtien songer dans la éducation en 2003, qui s'est arrivé, côté que yo mettez petit mon haïtien au dehors, et dit parti actuel là, te mettez mon haïtien au dehors l'école, gain haïtien c'est Haïti de petit mon yo malgré qu'il y a pièce dans le pays seulement parce que parents étaient haïtiens. Donc les fait connaître que c'est lui-même lorsque il monte sous pouvoir, il te fait voyager petit mon ça, il fait mettre à l'école et je ne dis à pile petit mon ça que lui-même il était en bourse, gain au fait d'étudier, là il passé Fav 15 pour voir dans toute zone yo côté que en pile dans jeune haïtien ça a mettre drapeau puis épidémie sur yo, il dit ça fait le crier. Il dit ça fait crier, ça pas 100 ans, ça fait environ 10-15 ans. Et parti ça a été fait au bagage ça, je ne dis pas, puis ouais, tout le monde a campé des deux PNPDM, il fait connaître que ça fait sentir le crier lorsqu'il a passé le bagage ça. Il dit que parti ça pas aimer haïtien, haïtien supposé comme ça. Et je dis à nous, il critique ni Sean, ni Doc Panel, ni Sherlyn, il fait connaître que pas aimer nous, que c'est parti par là qui remet haïtien. Et c'est celle pendant l'élection, nous, après l'élection, nous ne pouvons pas encore. Donc c'est ça qu'elle dit, sont des déclarations très émotionnelles. Donc, juste traduire ou non. I was just translating. Very emotional statement because I witnessed some of those things you mentioned in 2003. But again, you know, this was a very emotional thing when it happened to a lot of Haitian community. I know a lot of the young kids, their parents have to send them to Haiti. I'm just translating.
It's like, and again, I said, it's whether it's anytime injustice has been done, sometimes they say the young people, or it's slavery, or it's, sometimes people forget.
But what do you say about?
And as our duty to remind.
I spoke with, I had an interview with the Premier, Sherlyn, and when I asked her that question, she said, this is a new PDM. This is not the same PDM. So what do you say about that?
I said, complete rubbish. I said, it's the same PDM. She was a member of that PDM at the time.
Absolutely.
Right? And she took part in that. Right? And when you look at Charlene Cartwright today, what has she done for any Haitian person?
What has she done for anybody?
Anybody, nothing. So,
so how do you based on the last 4 years records and education, so what would be her grade?
Zero. Zero. She has done nothing. She has done nothing. The schools that has been, the new schools that's been built started under Rufus Ewing administration with Akira Missick as education minister. Scholarships is almost non-existent. You know, compared to when we were there, when we were spending $30 million a year on scholarship. And so this government is the worst government in the history of Turks and Caicos Islands. They've done nothing for nobody, nothing in education, nothing in terms of job opportunities, nothing. And they do not deserve a second chance. And so, of course, last minute they come with put some tile on the road. That can't feed you. And that is the very least a government can do with your taxpayers' money. It's your money.
Yeah, let me do a quick translation and then we're going to get back to that. We're going to continue with that same point here. Don't forget it. But let me quickly translate. N'a pas fait traduire parce que nous sommes, bon, ça que tu parlais de 2003, tu es arrivé vrai, nous t'es témoin, nous t'es là dans le pays. Même dit que, et puis DM qui répond, qui dit que, yo pas madame primaire, dit que, yo pas même ancien PDM, nous sommes l'autre PDM, moi des anciens primaires qui savent penser de ça, il dit non, c'est pas vrai, c'est toujours même là. Moi, je dis, et tout travail fait pendant 4 ans, qui ça dit de ça, il dit, bah, au 0 point, il n'y a pas rien, même l'école qui construit, c'était au Navaké à musique, ancien ministre de l'Éducation, qui était commencé pour ça, que eux-mêmes, ils ont abouti avec. Et il parlait de petits routes, il n'y a pas asphalté, d'après lui-même, ça ne va pas capable de manger. Donc, nous allons entrer dans le principe direct qu'on est là pour nous focus sur l'infrastructure. Now, to talk about infrastructure a little bit, as you mentioned, paving the road and stuff, I know a lot of people are very happy with those roads. Some of those places, they were very bad, very rough, and there's still a couple other places. Now you said they're nothing. They can feed people. I understand with this pandemic, people need food and money to pay the rent.
Yes.
But still, people need infrastructure. People need their life to be better. They need some of these roads to be paved and so on. So,
well, yeah, of course, infrastructure is important, and you know, it was us that, I mean, you know Providentialis, if you know Providentialis 20 years ago,
yeah.
it was my PNP administration that paved most of the main roads and the sidewalks and the community center and 5 Keys and so on and so forth. It just South Lyman Center and the Carifta Stadium and so forth. And so so what I'm saying is that at the very least, someone who's been here for 4 years should be able to pave some roads. So I'm not saying that paving the road is not important, but I'm saying that there are other infrastructure, especially parks and other social infrastructure that is needed, that has been completely neglected, where to keep the family unit together, where on a Sunday you will be able to take your kids to a park, right, that is safe, and so forth. Other areas that they neglect in relation to the Haitian community is that while we support controlled immigration, the issue of persons who, especially citizens who have families in Haiti, so many people came to me who have elderly parents or grandparents who they haven't seen in years. Right? They don't want their parents to come here to live forever, but they want to at least be able to get a visa for them to come to visit for Christmas. And this PDM government has no compassion, no empathy. Right? And under the PNP administration, we will make it the path easier and clearer for people who are citizens, who have families, who want to come to visit, to be able to get a visa without having to bribe somebody. There's so many people who paid thousands of dollars for visa not to get it. This is wrong. And the PNP administration will not stand for it. And we will make it clear, if you have your grandparents or parents that need to come to visit, we'll make the path clear where they can get a visa. This is a promise made and a promise will be kept.
Well, let me just translate. Nous attendons ancien premier Mike Missick a expliqué sur quelque chose de, parce que me dit que asphalter route est important tout, parce que même c'est pas les mettre manger sous table là, mais quand même on a besoin d'infrastructure. Donc il fait connaître que oui, je connais, mais si route asphalter pas assez d'infrastructure, l'été là, l'été et asphalter toute grande route dans le pays, qui fait un pile de infrastructure et il y a plus de travail que le projet pour faire. Mais là, les plus loin pour parler de connexion familiale haïtienne, dans la communauté haïtienne, nous pas gagner. Parfois, nous avons besoin de visa pour parents, pour grand, pour maman, pour papa, nous pas joindre, parce qu'il fait qu'on a l'administration perdu, il y a des gens qui dépensent des milliers de dollars pour joindre un visa, mais il fait qu'on est PNP parti là toujours fait bagaille plus facile pour nous joindre pièces pour parents venir visiter yo. Et il a toujours fait ça lorsque le pouvoir pas quitter, on a dépensé des millions de dollars pour joindre pièces pour famille venir visiter. Donc c'est ça que le ministre fait connaître. To move to immigration, we're going to have to connect everything. Go to immigration, okay, all right.
Go to immigration, I just want to go back again to the infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure.
Right? Now, of course, we have seen a bit of road improvement in some of the communities during the last 4 years. But trust me, that is not important. In fact, that is ignorance. What you need to do is have a plan of infrastructure throughout all those communities. That includes good road, and particularly most important water. It's amazing where those roads gone through from some places and 5 Keys and because there is no water. What is more important that each home had access to clean water, especially during this pandemic. Okay, so with this, our European government, we will ensure that all of our community, at least, by the very least, have pure clean water, access to it.
Nous avons ancien ministre de l'immigration fait connaître que oui, route là est important, mais quand plus de zones où on fait route, même de l'eau, même tuyau. Comment faut faire route, on va passer tuyau. Donc le gouvernement par là fait connaître que il pas passer tuyau dans tout coin net pour tout le monde qui a accès à tuyau la caillou, surtout dans le moment épidémie. Parce que ça extrêmement important, ça vraiment important pour de l'eau avec surtout courant tout dans quelques zones capables de joindre. Yeah.
And finally, on that issue of the visa thing, right? And again, because I hate hypocrites. Sean Asud was Minister of Immigration for almost 4 years. Now he's pretending to love so many Haitians, but he's the same person who have not made it possible for people to get visa. So you only love me because now you're trying to get my vote. When you had an opportunity to do right by me, he didn't do it. And so it's important for people, particularly my Haitian brothers and sisters in 5 Keys, to vote for Rachel Taylor, to reject Sean. Reject him. He shouldn't get 1 Haitian vote because he had an opportunity. He was Minister of Immigration and he's the Deputy Premier. So he have no excuse.
Well, nous avons ancien premier encore parlé sur la question de visa. Il fait qu'on a chanté ministre de l'immigration. Pendant que là, malgré ça, en fait, l'Haïtien a souffert pour jouer un visa pour une famille ou une visiter. Or, qu'on y a là, la demandé à Haïtien pour voter pour eux, il demandé pour toute une femme qui se voter pour Rachel Taylor au lieu de M. Sean. Donc, c'est ça que je dis dans la déclaration là, que le pas fait travail, c'est pas qu'on y a pour la demander à Haïtien ou voter pour lui. Now, when it comes to Sean, I must tell you, I mean, in 5 Keys, you know, I mean, the Asian community, they spoke highly about Mr. Sean. So, well, I know Miss Rachel is not here to answer some of those questions. Now, do you believe that she would be able to beat Sean in 5 Keys?
Well, she could beat him with the support of the Haitian community. Right? She has shown and proved that although she lost the last election, she never stopped working for the people of 5 Keys. She never stopped helping people who need help. And if she was able to do this without being in government, can you imagine what she will do when she is a minister and a member of parliament? And so I believe that she has earned a chance to represent the people of 5 Keys. And I plead to people to give her a chance and not only vote for her, but vote for all of the PNP candidates straight down the line and reject Sean, reject Charlene, and reject the PDM.
Nous allons écouter que nous souhaitons poser la question. Est-ce qu'il est possible pour Rachel battre Sean dans zone 5 Keys? Parce que on ne parle bien de Sean en pile. Bon, c'est premier affaire qu'on est que aucun haïtien va voter pour Sean, c'est pour Rachel de voter parce que Rachel pas dans le gouvernement, elle a fait bien. Imaginons si que le vide dans le gouvernement, elle a fait plus bien toujours. Donc de toute façon, nous espérons nous avoir gagné là, je dis si Dieu veut, avec nous, mais en attendant, c'est de grands représentants que nous gagnons. Now, to move to migration, you've been talking.
Just to wrap this segment up.
Yeah.
We have to go.
But I want to quickly wrap this segment up in this sense, right? 5 Keys in the Haitian community as it stands today, and going up to election day, we'll be getting a lot of attention from both political parties. After February 19th, Friday, all the political excitement and everything will be withdrawn from these communities. Yeah. People will go back to their respective lives. A new government will have an opportunity to govern. Do you want to trust your future with a government that hasn't done anything tangible for the Haitian community other than paving some roads in the 5 Keys area, as Mike just alluded to? Or you want to trust a government with a party that has proven its sympathy, has proven that we are sensitive to the plight of the human being? Do you want to trust a government under Charlene Cartwright Robinson where the ministers don't have no authority to conduct their ministries and implement their programs? Or do you want to trust a party, the PNP, who believe in giving their ministers the autonomy to carry out their programs and their agenda as listed in the manifesto? Our party has proven that we are people to our word. You see how the present premier, she obfuscates, she always have a different spin. I can't do this because the previous government did this, or somebody else did this, or somebody else did this. We take responsibility. The former premier, Mike Missick, just promised you that we will address that visa issue for the Haitian community and for other foreign residents who living in this Turks and Caicos Islands. We have proven that we are people to our word, holders to our word, and you will know that after you elect a PNP government on the 19th of February, the next 4 years will deliver results for your community.
Nous entendons que monsieur parlait que nous pas de point en partie seulement parce qu'il fait si route. Il y a même plus compassion, plus quoi pour aider et c'est pas dans route seulement pour nous quoi. Problème visa, problème nous gagnons, il y a résoudre et il y a toujours qu'un parole comme d'habitude, si on partit de qu'un parole il y a qu'un parole. I would like to do two things. I know your time is up. Your questions, or if you want to say something about crimes and violence. I know this one is very important. I don't know if you want to.
Oh, I think we can do both quickly.
Say something about crime and violence.
I think we can open it up for, and then in between we can talk about crime. Yeah, obviously crime is something that is all of the work that any government, that any people can do for a country, unless you can get the crime situation under control, that work will be in vain. And so again, as Floyd has said, the PNP party is a party that takes responsibility. We don't say, well, it's the governor's responsibility for crime or lie about not having a 12-point crime plan. We believe that the root of the crime situation, while there are some people who generally commit crime, but I don't believe the majority of young Turks and Caicos Islanders want to commit crime. Some people maybe start off with a paddock tap because there's a need. If you provide opportunities for young people where they can work a good job, a good paying job, and support their family, I'm sure that they don't want to turn to a life of crime. And so the PNP's crime plan has to do with full employment for young people, education, scholarship, sports. All right. So you provide a venue for young people to participate in the economic and social well-being of our country, then there would be little or no crime. When you look at countries, whether it's like Switzerland or Monaco or other countries that are affluent, that is doing well, those countries are the ones that have zero or no crime. But where there's lack of opportunities, lack of employment, and poverty, that is what breeds crime. So and so that is a part of the contract that the PNP has with the Turks and Caicos.
Nous avons parlé sur crime. Le ministre, ancien premier, a fait connaître que le problème crime dans le gagnant, c'est parce que pas assez d'opportunités pour les jeunes. Tant que travail, opportunité d'éducation, sport, tout ça, dès que le gouvernement n'a pas créé, donc ça fait crime augmenter plus. Même l'autre pays, côté bagaille bon, pour combattre le crime, c'est opportunité de créer plus pour les jeunes. Donc ils pensaient que le problème crime n'a tombé plus sous équiper les jeunes. Pas parce que les jeunes ont voulu entrer dans le crime vrai, mais c'est parce qu'il n'y a pas assez d'opportunités. Nous pensons que nous avons ouvert l'île, Pasteur Salomon, et nous avons ouvert l'île, si quelqu'un qui pose des questions. Nous prenons quelques questions rapides pour nous avancer parce que l'aide est déjà arrivée. We already have a caller. We're going to take a few questions quickly. If you don't mind, we'll take a couple of questions. Pasteur Salomon, capable de donner le numéro. Mettre le numéro dans l'air pour nous, pour le peuple capable de relayer. Si il y a quelques questions. Nous ne pouvons pas prendre texte parce que nous dans l'air, mais si il y a quelques questions rapides, nous avons ancien premier Mike Missick, ancien ministre des Finances. Floyd Hall, ancien ministre de l'Immigration, Jeffrey Hall. We didn't get to hear much from the former Minister of Immigration, Jeffrey Hall, in terms of immigration. I don't know if you wanted to say something as we getting ready to probably take a couple calls. when it comes to immigration. Our time is limited. I know you guys have to go, so I'm just trying to cut it short.
Well, yeah, time is limited, but I would encourage you to take a look at the citizen contract, and it has a list of new ideas and initiatives that the party is going to do for its immigration policy. One of the most important things that I think would happen is that we are going to make immigration clear, fair, and modernized. It is, I believe right now, it is too difficult to obtain any sort of documents to get their life is just in a hole. And so there's nothing for them to do. What this PNP government will do first is to ensure that all these people have some form of status, whether it be a status, whether it be PRC, or whether it's a work permit. It is a must. Everybody should have status. In order to do that, we have to make it easy for them to do it. So we want to modernize our immigration application to make it easy for everybody to become legal in the country.
Is this new, well, I won't call it new, well, let's say PNP. Is this PNP or the new team will come with some type of online application?
Yes. Read the citizen contract. It is out there. Those are the details. But they are going to modernize it to make it easier for you to get your status.
Nous entendons l'ancien ministre de l'immigration, Jeff Rose, parler que il voulait que tout le monde dans le pays ait une sorte de document dans le bureau. C'est tout un paquet de petits monde là, parfois qui ne pas à l'école à cause de un document ou pas à voyager. Et je crée un système pour tout le monde qui bagaille dans le bureau quand même. Je pense que numéro 1, non, nous ne pas comment attendre. For PRC, he would like to ask a question about PRC. It seems as if people sending text. I don't know if you guys know any plan in terms of PRC. I know there's a little situation right now with when it comes to application for PRC. There are two things that are troubling people out there. One is the previous PNP administration, when they started with the new PRC law in 2016, which asks 10 consecutive years. So what they used to do is, if you miss 1 year, let's say sometimes people apply for work permit and they didn't get the work permit out on time. Maybe because of problem in immigration, they got a work permit a year after, and they lost a year. But they were not illegal because they had the receipt waiting for an answer. However, it took a year or so before they got an answer. And now after 10 years, now in this administration, when they applied for PRC, so this administration say, well, you missed a year. I mean, you need 10 consecutive years, that's what the law says, yes. But then they said, well, I've been here 10 years and I've never been illegal. This year I was there, I paid, I didn't get the work permit. They said, no, you're not qualified, that's it. But the previous administration, what they used to do is, okay, well, we understand the situation, we're gonna charge you a penalty for that year, and then you'll get you, because you were there, you had a receipt, we're gonna charge you a penalty, and it got you. But now a lot of people got stuck, they can't go forward, they have to wait for 10 years again.
That is unfair. That's grossly unfair. Yeah, I am really familiar with that problem, and that is an issue that I had mentioned to the new team that needs to be looked into, because it's unfair for someone who's spent 10 years in the country for no fault of his own. And I know in one particular case that I'm familiar with, there was a hurricane, I think sometime in 2008, and the documentation, all of that got lost. And so they cannot more or less produce that information, and the individual lost an opportunity to become a PRC holder. And as I know, in the previous government, they charged you for that particular year. You paid the work permit fees and you were able to get it. So that's a very valid point, and it's a point that I think will be looked at by this new administration in the event we secure the government.
And which regard to the exams.
Translate that.
Oh yes, let me translate that. Pour question de PRC, application pour résidence, Et nous mentionnons qui gens que il y a des gens qui appliqué pour résidence, ils ont une année où été raté. Quand le gouvernement ça a dit, ils ont perdu tout restant de fait avant, puis ils recommencent à zéro pour 10 ans encore. Donc, moi, je me dis qui projet que vous parce que l'administration a inventé qu'on fait payer année, puis ils n'ont pas de résidence. Je me dis, et l'administration qu'on a là, qui projet pour aider les gens. Mais je dis, ça va juste, je connais des gens qui ont problème ça va juste, ça pas bon même. Je pense que l'administration, ça va venir là pour changer ça. This administration says they are not interested in back fee. They don't want back. You just have to start over 10 years again.
Yeah,
some people 9 years and they have to go for 10 years, 20.
Yeah, that's not right.
Pastor Jack, I would like to ask a question about the test.
The test, the exam. I was going to come up with the exam. Now, the exam, there are some people who have been here for 20, 30 years.
I think all of that will be reviewed by the new PNP administration because, we feel, because as you know, before, suddenly under my government, there was no test. While people have to have some degree of competence or awareness, the test can't be put as a deterrent so people can fail. I mean, if you qualify, you qualify. If you put in the time, we feel that you should be able to get the status, and even we were able to help you to do so. So I think with the contract, the new contract that PNP will have, all of those things will be reviewed. We will take everyone's input into consideration. So I think that the Haitian people can feel safe that in a PNP administration you will have a government that will be working hand in hand with you to ensure that your kids have stability, security, and so forth. So rest assured that these things will be addressed.
C'est pour me faire connaître que le problème examen, il quoi sous tout temps là, il va pas mettre examen. Et pense que le gouvernement ça va réviser le dossier examen parce qu'il pas voulu pour examen devenir un blocage pour monde pas gagner pièce dans le pays, il pas bon du tout. Donc c'est ça qu'il fait connaître l'équipe actuelle là, depuis ce point pouvoir, va réviser loi ça. I'm thinking most countries.
Yeah. Also, I just need to notify the Haitian community that Rachel does the English as second language classes by the community center. And the additional point concerning security, the government needs to look at, and I know that we're looking at securing Haitians in the community to be on the police force. We have a lot of people in the community, Haitians in the community who want to serve this country. They are concerned about crime just like we are. And so those who are eligible, we're looking to see some of them on the police force as well.
The police force and the new regiment.
Yeah, and the new regiment, absolutely.
Et nous entendons que Madame Rachel, lui-même, il y a une école communautaire pour aider les gens à apprendre l'anglais pour passer l'examen. Plus encore, il fait qu'on a que le projet peut mettre plus haïtien dans la force police là, plus haïtien dans la force armée qui a le métier et dans tout le système net pour aider la sécurité dans le pays. Moi, je dis que dans le pays, c'est dans la naturalisation, il y a mon test au lieu de résidence. Je dis que ça va avancer test pour naturalisation au lieu de résidence. I'm thinking most countries, they give tests for naturalization instead of PRC. So, I mean, they don't give no test for naturalization, but PRC. I'm thinking, would it be a better thing to move it to naturalize? If you want to become a citizen, then you have to take the test instead of PRC. Because most countries in the world, they only do it for when you want to become a citizen. Yeah, so I don't know, I'm just saying that. Again, I don't know, Pastor, if you have any caller, anybody. Si il y a quelqu'un qui t'a posé une question, ou quelques questions, yeah, go ahead.
Si il y a quelqu'un qui t'a posé une question, téléphone 938 66 77 339 10 80, nous sommes capables de les connaître, quel que soit côté que nous sommes capables. Et bien, juste pour nous capables de poser partie à la question que nous avons posée, nous avons là, et bien, jeudi, Hello? Oui.
Allô. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Michael. Chouchou, de la Mouée. moi, j'ai couché la situation depuis janvier 2015, je ne vais jamais venir. Et deuxième question, c'est anglais, nous allons nous parler sur lui, parce que tout le monde, à travers le monde, tout le monde est à l'école, mais tout le monde pas même. Tout le monde pas bien. Tout le monde pas trouver le même niveau. Et troisième question, ça pour souffrir, peuple qui parle au théâtre, 2016, 2021, 2021, égal PE. Bye bye.
Ok.
De dernier parti à Pasteur Salomon.
Il dit comme ça qu'il couche en résidence depuis 2015, à nos jours, il n'est pas jamais jeune. Et deuxièmement, il dit que il y a plein de monde qui va prendre lui pour faire des tests là. Et puis troisièmement, nous t'ai fait erreur en 2016, 2021, pas fait erreur. Comment dire ça?
Well, this guy said he submitted his naturalization application from 2015, and to 2021 he still didn't get no answer. And he also said there are a few people who cannot read. They are unable to take the test. And he said a message to the Asian community is the message is he told the Asian community the mistake that they've made in 2016 they should not make it in 2021.
All right, question, yes, Sabo. Allô, bonsoir. Allô? Allô? Ah, ça allez. On va poser des questions, on va terminer très bientôt. Tous les téléphones là, 346 66 77. Et puis 339 10 80. Question. Nous connaissons un peu de monde qui a écouté nous.
You wanted to say something? Vous pouvez dire au pasteur Salomon, nous avons deux questions seulement.
Ok, deux questions. Et... Hello, bonsoir. Allô, bonsoir. Oui. Sortez devant la radio, s'il vous plaît. Sortez devant la radio là. Ok, posez question. Question, posez. Ah bon, on ça aller. On l'a on prend deux seules questions, on qui a chance d'entrer. On qui a chance d'entrer.
Ban numéro
348 66 77 339 10 80. Restez-nous deux questions encore.
Oui, donc, nous sur Radio Créole, 95 FM. Donc, nous avons gagné ensemble avec nous, équipe PNP. La première question.
Nous sur Radio PHTC, tout.
Oui, Radio
Allô, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Faut-il parler plus fort, s'il vous plaît? Mettez bouche au pied pour le téléphone.
Nous saluons tout le monde qui est dans la radio, nous saluons Mike.
Ok. Tout le monde.
Je suis posé ça. Et pas parler des PNP, non parler de tous les deux bâtiments. À chaque fois qu'il y a une élection, ils vont toujours chercher. Mais c'est lorsque on voit l'oublier qu'il y a haïtien et on prend notre ligne, il y a toujours parfois des ministres haïtiens non pas cette bagaille par
ok. Vous appelez à votre patience, s'il vous plaît. Qui est question à fin de poser? Il y a plusieurs gens qui appellent là. Qui est question à fin de poser? Oui.
Par exemple, quand on y a un météo à frontière pour nous, ça pas bien. Et pendant que dans le pays du monde, c'est quel pays qui fait le contrat? Parce que là, nous mettons en combat chassé pour nous gagner un pied. Nous disons après, c'est pas que le président n'est pas comme déplacé, nous sommes égalité pour résidents.
Ok, on a dit, Pasteur Jacques répond à une question. Pasteur Jacques, vous avez écrit là, va bien?
Dans des déclarations, on dire.
Pour qui ça, les déportations sont déportées, il y a déporté Haïtiens toujours établis. Et puis, l'autre nation, il y a aujourd'hui, yo merci yo maîtrise pour yo
pas established. Okay.
This person asks, He said, well, both
Dans
parties.
question, ça finit répondre avant l'autre monde répondre. S'il vous plaît, avant
Yeah,
l'autre
wait,
question.
wait.
Okay.
Before we take the next question. This person said, he said, well, we take 2 questions and then that's it. Well, we'll take the other question.
Okay, you
will
continue.
Oh, okay, all right. This person said, well, you're calling.
All right, let me take the last one. Hello, bonsoir.
We'll take the question.
All right, that's it. Okay.
They will keep on calling.
It's done.
I can go ahead. He noticed that when the repatriate other nationalities, and they don't put them on stamp list, but when they repatriate Haitian, they put them on stamp list. So I don't know if you guys know anything about that.
Well,
We don't know. Maybe you don't know.
No, I'm not aware of it actually. If you put one nationality on the stop list for repatriation, then you have to put all there. No, I was never aware of it.
Donc, monsieur fait qu'on est pas au courant de ça, mais vous pensez que si vous mettez une nation sous stop list, il faut mettre toute nation. Vous ne dire vous mettez haïtien pour pas mettre l'autre nation et tout. Donc, il faut mettre tout le monde tout et pas seulement haïtien.
Hello?
Allô,
Bonsoir.
moi, salut tout qui se passe dans l'après-midi. Et spécialement, monsieur
Everybody, greet you first.
Mike Missick. Sometimes, pour quelle raison qui fait l'élection haïtienne toujours supporter tout parti, mais nous qui le maîtriser n'a pas la présence haïtienne.
Ok, merci. Vous m'êtes allé?
Pasteur, ça me battait de...
Pour qui raison, les élections, why when they have election, and Haitian always support, they always ask support for the Haitian community, and after the election, they always forget the Haitian community.
That is not, well, I can speak for the PNP. Of course, during the election, you ask everybody for support, because everybody who's on the voters list. And so, I mean, the PNP has had a history of being supportive of the Haitian community and its cause. Now, no community gets everything they want. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, the reality is that we're here today to ask for voters for their support. The PNP has a manifesto that is a contract with the voters, and we want you to hold us to that. And the promises that we have made here today, as we say, a promise made, a promise kept. So it's important for everyone who are able to go to vote because elections have consequences. And so if you don't vote, and the PDM get it again, when the PDM continue and how they treat Asian, you can't complain because you either you didn't vote or you vote for them. So that's why we're here to try to say, to show you a different way that if you support us, support the PNP, then the three of us that are here that you know, you can have my number. And so when the PNP win, even if you can't reach a minister for whatever reason, if you reach me, I will make sure that they do what they're supposed to do.
Nous entendons ancien premier qui expliquait que oui, il a toujours cherché aide tout le monde, pas seulement en communauté. Mais il a toujours baillé, si tout parti par
il a
toujours aidé Haïtiens en pile. Donc il fait connaître que si on promet ce que de faire pour vous, il n'y a pas de cas, bon, on peut prendre une téléphone lui-même, la féministe fait sûr, fait ça que qui était pour mettre, pour faire pour Haïtiens, pour communauté haïtienne. Donc c'est sûr, c'est
You are only the best and stay the best. One thing I would like to see from you again
I don't know the reason why you don't come back to make sure to continue to do your work.
Yeah.
Because what you did, I don't think anybody will not forget that. Nobody can forget what you do, okay? So what I want to know why you don't come back to continue do your work.
A vote for the PNP is a vote for me.
Yeah.
Come back.
Je dis voter pour PNP, c'est voter pour yo tout qui la net.
Well, if you notice, all the callers, they always start with a special greetings to Mr. Michael. Everybody said special greetings.
Also, I just want to mention, because the particular caller that stated that the parties come to candidate support, and then at the end of the day, when they get back in government, they don't do anything. Our PNP party has a track record that you can measure. The Haitian community can measure us against the PDM party in terms of our performance. You heard Michael spoke about the many immigration issues as well as the educational issues, and we spoke about addressing the housing. And basically, our word has always been our bond with the Haitian community. I don't think there's been anything that we have promised this community that we never followed through on. And so judge us by our record. But I could say, if you want to examine the PDM record, the Premier has constantly not lived up to expectations by the Haitian community, nor the people of this country. She always finds an excuse. With our PNP party, there will be no excuses. We look for solutions.
Nous entendons M. Flotte dit que les gens qui te parlent tout à l'heure disent qu'ils ne vont pas quitter pour monsieur, même les toujours là où ils sont pouvoir quitter pour monsieur, parti PNP ça quitter toute promesse li, il va pas faire aucune excuse, il a quitter promesse li comme ça doit. Maybe you don't want to say nothing. I wanted to ask one last thing. The last caller who asked Mr. Mike to come back. There's a saying out there, even in the Asian community, they're saying, you know, they don't feel that the current candidate, PNP candidate, are strong enough. And in fact, as you can see, the caller asks you, why you don't come back? You know, you can sense what I'm talking about. So what do you say about those candidates, those PNP candidates? To those who are saying they're not strong enough, they feel like...
I think they are strong enough. I mean, when you look at the leader of the party, who happens to be my brother, who was chief minister, who has been minister of finance, who has a wealth of experience in government and private sector, and then you have others like Akira who serve, and so we have a strong slate of candidates. Some that is proven and tested, and some is not. And then when you look at Rachel Taylor, who's a strong woman, who has made a serious contribution in the educational field of this country. Like I said, I believe she deserves a chance. And so overall, I think we have when you compare our candidates to the PDM candidates, we have a better slate of candidates. So thank you again for having us on the station. We're pleased to be able to spend the time in explaining the PNP policies, and we look forward to a new era on Saturday morning when we wake up. On Saturday morning, we don't want any disappointment. We want to be sure that everyone goes out there to vote. When you go into the poll, it's only your vote is between you and your God. Right? And so it's important for you to vote. You know in your heart who has your best interests, and that is the PNP. So it's important for you to vote for PNP straight down the line.
Yeah.
And so we're not into personalities. We're into the party. And so vote. I plead to you, please, for my sake, do it for me. Vote PNP straight down the line.
Nous entendons l'ancien primaire dit que Oui, leader solide, parce que quand nous avons dit leader PNP pas solide, leader solide, très solide, qui a l'expérience, c'est voter parti samedi CV pour que vous ayez sous pouvoir. Donc, vous avez voulu poser une question, but this point now, I want to ask a question, but time is up. Sorry about that.
We will be there on Thursday.
PNP will be back.
Yes.
So,
Thursday again, maybe.
So, you can ask more questions. Donc, nous allons PNP retourner jeudi encore. Demain, nous avons gagné l'autre partie, à partir du pouvoir PDM, mais jeudi, nous avons gagné PNP. Donc, c'est là que nous prenons fin. C'était un plaisir. Merci en pile. Nous prenons fin. Merci à tout le monde qui était branché, Radio VHCC, Radio Créole, pour participer au programme ça et sur Jacques Patat TV, Radio VHCC sur Facebook. C'est un plaisir. À la prochaine. Ciao, ciao. Merci, Pasteur Salomon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
No problem.
Great show, Pastor. Great show.
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yes.
Mike, don't go in. Night.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I give you the impression, yeah.
Bate